Hey everybody, I'm going to break protocol and talk to you about something I know very little about today, and that's building community. So in a quick 6 minutes or so, I'm going to run you through some of my experience having taken over stewardship of Clojure NYC. Any members of Clojure NYC here? Awesome. Any community organizers out there? Anybody want to be a community organizer? Tell you everything you need to know. Cool. So a little bit about me. I'm the founder and CTO of Workframe in New York. Also Tim's boss. That's my greatest claim to fame. Rich characterized me as an old cranky person. I think I probably am that. Not a seasoned community organizer. Everything I'm going to tell you and everything I've learned so far has been through trial and error. And we're learning as we go. So the Workframe team sponsors and hosts the Clojure NYC community, and it's a fun thing to do. So this talk briefly is for organizers. There are a few of you out there. I hope more of you will kind of step up and organize if that's warranted in your local community. Members of local meetups, and if you're not a member of a meetup and don't attend them frequently, you're part of the problem, and you should go to your local meetup. I urge you to do that. So Clojure NYC has a long history. It dates back to 2010. I think it started out as the first New York City tri-state area even Clojure user group. Has a rich history of organizers, some pretty amazing talks, some of which I'm sure you've seen at various venues, from Google to our tiny office in Soho. There have been 4 or 5 changes of the guard since inception, and we're the latest to kind of take it over. It's at 1,500 members, but on my next slide I'm going to talk about members in quotes, because as you know, membership in meetups and attendance and engagement are 2 different things. So we took the helm about a year ago, and as I said, it's been a learning experience. One of the things I'm going to call for today is for community organizers out there in the Clojure community to get together and start sharing some meta knowledge about how best to do this. So community is hard. We're figuring out as we go. We have 1,500 members in quotes, which means, a member is a loose signal that somebody's interested in Clojure in the large, but out of 1,500, anybody want to guess how many people typically come to meetups? It's less than 100, sometimes far less than 100, sometimes just me. No, just kidding. But there are many challenges. One of them is that one of the greatest things about Clojure is that it's truly a general purpose language, and there's a challenge there. It's not Rails or Python. There is no it's not Ruby or Python, I should say. There's no Rails magnet to bring a community together. There's no Django. There are a lot of libraries and fascinating things and myriad use cases. So it's hard to find a single kind of magnetizing force to bring people together after work on a Wednesday evening. But we, as most of you would prefer, a very engaged small community over a massive, not very engaged passive community. So our goal, and yours as organizers, if you choose to be an organizer, is to get the word out, keep the group active and welcoming. I don't have time to talk about welcoming, but that's about diversity and low barrier to entry. So I'm going to share 5 quick guiding principles in the remaining time, ending with the most important one of all, just to add a little suspense. One is consistency, and this goes for any kind of meetup. I think a monthly meeting is the right cadence, and people knowing that there's something coming up roughly the first Wednesday of every month is very helpful. I've seen a lot of meetups kind of fail because they schedule a couple months in advance, and you never know exactly when it is, and if you can't make it, you feel guilty, and things don't go well. I recommend people plan way in advance. This is one of the hardest things to do as organizers, is to get 3 or 4 speakers lined up. If you're doing lightning talks, get those things on the calendar well in advance. I put these slides together last night, so I'm not a good example of that, but it's a basic organizing principle. It's harder than you think to do. Give speakers plenty of advance notice. The better the talks, the more people you'll get to come. Clojure folks, in my experience, tend to be very open, and they tend to be great speakers. So it's usually not a problem to get people to scramble, but 2 weeks is the right amount of notice. I find it helpful to shortlist just a couple of venues, 2 or 3, at maximum 4, so people kind of get into the routine, they know where to go. We're in New York City, so that's pretty easy to do. We have lots of people volunteering to host. Number 2, embrace variety, but have a focus. I think it's nice to see the same faces month after month. Community really is about interacting with people that you see more than once a year. And Clojure use is diverse, as I said before. So it is a challenge to find focus, but also embrace different kinds of talks in different communities. We have a beginner community in New York City. We have an advanced community. We have people doing machine learning. We have people like my company Workframe doing full stack Clojure, interested in Datomic. Some people curious about Datomic. Some people afraid of Datomic. So we want to embrace all those different kinds of interests and encourage beginners. Last bullet there, don't assume that the community is necessarily interested in all the same things you are. So, if we were to have a Clojure meetup in New York about companies that are doing full stack Clojure, it would probably be a meetup of 5 people, and 4 of them would be working for me. But it's important to maintain that kind of variety. In terms of the things that have been working well for us is, have a protocol. Again, this is sort of basic meeting etiquette, but announcements. One thing I always leave out is to tell people where the bathrooms are. Critical when you start a meeting to tell people about that. Stick to a schedule. Be present as an organizer. That's one that I've learned over and over again. I've been to meetups in town where people will kick something off and then sort of walk away or take a phone call or start coding on their machines. Be present and be a good moderator. The most important things that happen at our events are before the event, so leave plenty of time for that, socializing, pizza, whatever, beer, and after the event, go out to a venue, leave plenty of time for socializing afterwards. Those are the most important, obviously, parts of the thing. Build a strong network. This is something we've gotten better at. Have enough venues, have plenty of sponsors. Sponsors will send people to your meetup and help grow it. They'll pay for food and beer and things like that. And most importantly, perhaps, reach out to other meetups. So we have a relationship now with the New York HoloLens meetup, which has only a passing relationship to Clojure, but given that you can do interesting things in WebGL and gaming, there's a nice crossover. And we think the HoloLens community will embrace the Clojure community and vice versa. But we're also trying to get JavaScripters kind of out of their comfort zone in the many JavaScript meetups and bring them into the Clojure NYC meetup to learn about JavaScript and React and all the interesting things going on there. And lastly, we have a great opportunity in the Clojure community to get involved in Clojure Bridge, which is a wonderful thing. It's available pretty much wherever you are. There's some kind of Clojure Bridge event that you can get involved with as a volunteer or a sponsor. And there's a nice dovetailing that happens between our meetup and Clojure Bridge. I gave it away. The last one, the most important, food. So when we were getting this rolling, I reached out to the person who used to evangelize tech meetups at Guilt Group, which is famous for its developer community and fostering an amazing community around Scala and its various tools. And she said, if you remember one thing, it's to go beyond beer and pizza. So we haven't done that yet, but we have access to Prince Street Pizza in Soho, which is, already beyond your normal pizza fare. But food is perhaps the most important contribution you can make as an organizer. So hope you take those principles, go forth, and build community. Thank you.